Hi, I'm Mike Cherniffsky, and you're listening to This Podcast is Uncalled For. Welcome to the podcast. I'm pleased to announce we have a new co-host who is joining us. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, this is Heather Marie, and thank you very much for having me.
Yep. So, a little on your background.
A little bit about myself.
Okay. Our discussion for today.
Well, I'm Heather. I'm 40 years old. I'm a mother of 3 really phenomenal daughters. I'm a real estate agent. I substitute teach. I'm into Girl Scouts and PTA, and I am very, very filled with gratitude to be able to share this space with you, and looking forward to all the conversations we get to have here.
And today we're going to be engaging in a discussion on a certain celebrity who has been pretty much spending a lot of time in our neck of the woods lately. So let's get those chicken fingers out with some ketchup and some seemingly ranch.
Some seemingly ranch.
And let's talk about it.
Right on. Well, I think frequenting our town is putting it lightly. She's a resident now.
Pretty much.
It's been fun. So yeah, Taylor Swift, and of course the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce romance. I'm hoping we get to call her a lifer here in Kansas City.
Well, she does have properties in other parts of the country
and world, right?
Well, at least the country. I don't know. I'm not sure about the world, but certainly in New York, she seems to be spending a lot of time in. I think she has a place in Nashville, L.A., Rhode Island.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
no, if we can have her even just part-time here in Kansas City, I'll...
thanks to Mr. Kelce, who, of course, I mentioned already on the podcast, and I mentioned to you, his other house, the one that he had to move out of, one of his neighbors is one of my coworkers, and he has told me about the chaos that has happened since Travis and Taylor have gone public.
Yeah, that would be wild.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelce was on the map, but not really. You know, the caliber's changed for him, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no question. So for those who are living under a rock. Tell us about Miss Taylor, please.
Well, I mean, as far as just the kind of the recent excitement, Taylor Swift, of course, recently she's got her, well, let's talk about what, Oscars, we talk about the People's Choice Award. She just won 4 People's Choice Awards, and Travis Kelce won his People's Choice Award as the Athlete of the Year.
Won a couple of Grammys recently.
Yes.
I mean, that is what she's known for, is being a singer.
It is, that's correct.
Singer
she won her 13th and her 14th Grammy recently. And let's see, in addition to that, I've learned recently, so myself, I think we've talked about this before, my introduction to Taylor Swift was kind of reverse for a lot of people. I found Taylor Swift's music kind of learning more about her. But as a woman raising women, I have so much respect and admiration for her and the things that she's done and she's accomplished. But in her 20 years of music, yeah, she went from free shows on a small stage in Nashville to... Well, I mean, woman of the world, right?
Right.
There's not a lot she can't master, it seems like.
Yeah, I think at this point in February 2024, it's kind of hard to find people who have not heard of her. But yeah, she is a musician. She's been doing it for 20 years. She started in country music.
Yes, she did.
Which of course, I am not particularly a fan of. But I have been listening to her music certainly since the whole relationship with Mr. Kelce has started. And I want to thank the Swifties on Reddit for recommending This is Taylor Swift's playlist on Spotify.
Okay. I'm going to have to look that one up myself. Yeah. Oh, well, my favorite Taylor Swift song that I have found so far, and there's quite a few that I really like, but I had a really personal relationship, a really strong relationship with my grandmother, and her song Marjorie, which is, in part of that song, her grandmother is actually singing, and so she kind of talks about how when she sings that on stage and her grandmother's up there with her and that connection. And then I listen to the songs, and one of the lines is, things that die never stay dead. And just how powerful that is when you talk about connection and you talk about legacy and you talk about, just heritage and things of that nature and what we all get to carry on and what we take with us from the people that have touched us and impacted us like that. I cry every time, man. It's the good tears. It's a good tears, But yeah, in addition to her music and her stardom, I think my favorite thing about Miss Taylor Swift is the way that she's managed to reach superstardom and still somehow manage to just be a regular person. You see her in these spaces. She's incredibly kind. She's incredibly generous. She seems to show up consistently as herself in all spaces. She applauds for every other artist that performs at every award show or space that she's in. She celebrates other people's wins as much as she celebrates her own. She's not afraid to celebrate her own wins, which as a woman, that's a powerful statement. She's a really fascinating and really exceptional woman. I'm thankful to be raising women in a time when women like her are showing us what it can look like.
Yeah. So of the songs I've heard, like I said, I'm not much of a country fan, but my favorite song of hers is probably Endgame.
Yes, well, and that's...
In parts because I am a fan of rap and R&B.
Okay.
Right. But also she serenaded Mr. Kelsey with that song in Argentina.
Yes, she did. And it's, you always wonder because what a lot of people really like about her music is that it is all stories. It's her stories. It's shared stories. She's a beautiful storyteller and a beautiful songwriter. But yeah, when she serenaded to him and how perfectly placed that ended up being for this romance, this just beautiful love story that we're all getting to watch. But in reverse of that, he serenaded to her, "You belong with me," and every
Super Bowl
yes
party,
and every woman in the world, that's, well, I don't want to speak for every woman in the world, but I will say that I myself, I will speak for myself. But it was one of those moments when you're like, wow, that's special. And she said that's the most romantic thing that anyone's ever done. So it's, yeah.
I believe that was caught on tape somewhere.
Right.
Wound up its way on the interwebs. And then we saw them dancing to another one of her songs, It's a Love Story, Baby Just Say.
Yes. Yes.
And then over in the corner is Travis's brother Jason wearing a luchador mask.
Yes.
And,
living his absolute best life, though. Living his best life. And in saying that about Taylor Swift, I will also go on, and I know you are also a fan of Kelsey's podcast and
New Heights.
Yes, and they've referenced your podcast, and so I've listened to them more since sharing that time with you also, and you're kind of referencing to them and recommending that podcast and learning, just really seeing people in their natural habitat, so to speak. I will say that the Kelseys are also just genuinely good people, they're a couple of guys that grew up in a home with parents that believed in them and did what it took, and they're really, really good at football. But who they are and how they contribute to their teams and to their spaces, and Jason Kelsey in his home, and of course Kylie Kelsey is another incredible woman, incredible role model, and just human to watch navigate the world. They also seem to have managed, this kind of superstardom while still being just regular, comfortable in their skin people.
Right.
And that I think is what is so special about them.
And what she's referencing, of course, is the whole thing about the New Heights sandwich at Grill 32, which is kind of related to the podcast because Conrado, friend of the podcast, lives just down the street from there. Last time I picked up Conrado, he said that he had tried the place out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
So that is pretty awesome. But a little more about Miss Swift. Before she went to country music, she was raised on a Christmas tree farm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that is why her favorite candle scent is Christmas tree or evergreen.
And I believe it was in eastern Pennsylvania near Philadelphia, which explains why her dad is allegedly, that's what, we don't know this anymore, but allegedly a big Eagle fan.
Right?
Right?
It's funny because prior to this experience, and I've been learning a lot about your history with football. By the way, for those of you listening, Football for Swifties is a previous episode of this podcast, and it is phenomenal. It's 22 minutes, and it has brought me up to speed in ways that in 40 years I did not understand the game. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But I came into Kansas City. I moved around a lot growing up, so I didn't really have like a home-based team. What the Kansas City Chiefs have kind of developed over the last, I don't know, Patrick
They've been here
Mahomes years.
Since 1963, but yeah, in terms of their recent winning.
And for me, it's not even just about the winning. Mahomes is another individual, and I'll speak of Patrick Mahomes specifically, who seems like a genuinely good human. He cares about his team. He is 100% consistent in recognizing every component in every success. He takes responsibility for every shortcoming. He's a really stellar leader. He happens to also be a phenomenally talented athlete, not just football. It seems like any sport he's really put himself into, he's capable of excelling at. But also just a really, really good human. And what I like about the Chiefs is what Kansas City as a city brings to it as well. Unfortunately, the way that our last Super Bowl win parade went was not, that was a very unrepresentative way of how it had always been prior to that.
Yeah.
And
I have an entire episode on that subject too, the discussion on gun violence and gun control. So
yeah. But prior to that, the connection that Kansas City has because of this shared space and this team and just kind of good sportsmanship. You watch a lot of, and not just with football. You watch sports a lot, and you recognize that sportsmanship isn't always a pillar of strength. And it's just neat to see. It's just neat to see what the Chiefs bring to Kansas City and what Kansas City brings with the Chiefs. And it's neat to be a part of.
Yeah. And of course, you're speaking to someone who is publicly on this podcast said they're not my team.
Not a fan, I know.
They're not my team, and I've got my reasons.
Yeah.
So
well, and I like being open to that as well. My interest again is honestly very little to do with football itself. So.
Yeah. And since we're on the subject of football, I like to address the dads, Brads, and Chads, if I may quote Taylor Allison Swift there. Who has seriously done more to run football, Taylor or Stan Kroenke? One is just going to football games to support her loved one. The other lied a team out of the Show Me State. All right.
Nope, I saw your post on that earlier.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good comparison. I mean, if we want to open up the whole conversation, there's a lot to be said about who's ruining the sport of football as a whole. And the comparison on the post was very relevant to that too.
Yeah.
Do you want to share?
I've already shared plenty on the subject on the podcast. So.
Well, I would have to agree with you. I don't think, and I think her attitude, I'm sorry if it's pissing some people off, is just another testament to being a regular person. Because I think that any of us would be like, come on, man, I'm just trying to enjoy the game.
Yeah, football is awesome.
For those of us, and I will be learning from you along the way. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah. So outside of music and football, what are some other things that Taylor is known for? Well, I would say two things that come to mind immediately are cats
Yes.
and culinary stuff. So.
Well, I would agree to the cats and culinary. One of the things that I really liked about her, looking her up, is that she bakes cookies for her fans. And amongst other things, but what a real, like an innate human connection there. She bakes. She will invite fans over and bake them cookies.
Neat too. I've heard with Travis specifically, she likes to make cinnamon rolls.
Oh.
Because I guess that's
That's
one of his
his
favorite
favorite
things to do. Yeah. Yeah, cinnamon rolls, yes, mayonnaise and other white condiments.
Not so much.
Not so much. That's one of the things we learned from my contribution.
I love it though. I love the fact that you know these things. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So her and Cats, she was in the movie Cats, and I guess they actually like took a class where they got to crawl around and practice behaving as cats. And whereas a lot of them, found that to be rather annoying or a nuisance, she was like in love with it. She absolutely had a blast. And I also love the fact that there's classes that teach you how to act like a cat.
Yeah.
That exists.
Well, especially for if you're playing in a movie called Cats, that is about cats.
Cats is the first Broadway musical I ever saw when I grew up in Colorado. Right. And yeah.
Good deal. I'm not very a musicals guy myself. That's a discussion for another time. But I do like the Book of Mormon musical.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that after we're done with the recording. So.
Okay.
Yeah, she has 3 cats, I believe.
I believe that you are correct.
Yeah.
And what are their names?
Meredith, Olivia, and Benjamin.
I love it. She, and I don't know which of the cats, but whenever she was shooting video and they brought the kitten onto the set and she just fell in love with this kitten. She's like, whoever has this cat is such a lucky person. And the cat was available for adoption, and they're
I think that was her most recent one. I think that's Benjamin.
Benjamin, I think so. I think you're correct. But yeah. So she's like, whoever has this cat is the luckiest person ever. And then that cat ended up being like one of the luckiest cats to ever land a cat life.
Right. And we talked about her baking cookies and everything. Last time we also talked about her other culinary preferences like coffee.
Yep. So when we attempted this the first time around, we were at a Starbucks, and it was quite the exciting day in the Starbucks. But I tried Taylor's favorite coffee, which is just the non-fat caramel latte, and it was delicious. It was. So thank you very much for the recommendation, Taylor. I appreciate that.
I also have heard she is Coke over Pepsi.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, again, referencing New Heights, they did their Halloween episode and they got to all the Reese's candies and what does Reese's remind you of? Ed Kelsey. Yeah, Reese's and what else? Diet Pepsi.
I will say, so Pepsi is, that's one area that Miss Taylor and we don't see eye to eye. I am a Pepsi over Coke myself. And I wonder if part of that's just kind of what you started on. You know what I mean? Yeah. Drank Pepsi growing up. It actually took me moving to the Midwest. It took me a long time to accept the word pop. It was like it's either a soda, yes, but then you go to the South and everything's Coke, which to me is also strange.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Agnostic beverage.
Right. Well, how do you specify? Like, no, really, I want an actual Coke versus like a Coke, but it's like a Dr. Pepper, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So.
Dr. Pepper, of course, equals agnostic beverage.
Right.
So yeah. Of course, we talked about Taylor's songwriting. One of the topics she likes to write about are ex-boyfriends. Mm-hmm. She is notorious, shall I say, for writing songs about men who have done her wrong.
Sure. Well, and she's, it goes both ways. I would say she seems to take accountability for herself also in the relationships. And I would say in the relationships, I don't know a ton about the relationships themselves, but the way that the music plays out.
Yeah.
She refers to herself as the anti-hero. She refers to herself, she knows that she can get a little crazy in relationships also, and it's fun to watch those videos play out. I also like Bad Blood is probably one of my favorite Taylor Swift. And that was at that time, because again, you think of 20 years, just think of your own life, what has gone and happened in 20 years, and when did those songs, and not just her music, but that's the power of music, right? Like we correlate music to events and times in our lives, and then forever, that music is like a time machine, and it'll take us right back there. Well, Bad Blood was like one of those for me, and I had never heard or seen Taylor Swift in that light. Like she was very much more, certainly with the, the top hits and the songs I'd been exposed to, the, sweet baby just say yes kind of version of Taylor Swift. And so when Bad Blood came out, I took notice. I really liked that one.
Yeah, I think that was for one of our first endeavors into pop music, right? So.
And it was also kind of I'll use the words a clapback. That was her kind of addressing some things that had happened in a public way. And I'm a very transparent person myself. Like let's have an open conversation. So I like that about her too.
Yeah. And I think most of her exes, since we're on this subject, have been like actors and musicians. So they can be I will say interesting group of people to be around. Again, we've had a lot of actors and musicians on the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think it's just very, very different, and it could be that athletes may have this same, I'm just going to say, I think what I'm trying to say is that the human ego is a funny thing. And if you're looking in the same spotlight as somebody like Taylor Swift, it'd be hard not to feel outshined, and I think that one thing that's neat about her current relationship, separate from what it seems to be like past relationships, is that they both shine in their own light, completely separate lights. There's not a competitive nature, even like the same industry or any of those pieces.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they also, they're not afraid of each other's light. They're not afraid of each other's power and how they show up. They encourage it, and I will just say, as a human in the world, like that's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with. Let alone a partner, but just in general, that's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a thing certainly with musicians in her case, they're all basically competing with one another.
In a very literal sense at the award shows. I mean, it's,
Grammys.
It's a very, and I will, for the most part, you do see a lot of artists that are very gracious about it. They show up, and Taylor Swift is one of them. Taylor Swift, there was awards that she was up for that she did not win at the recent Grammys.
Yep.
And she was still one of the people in the audience standing up, applauding, singing along, and participating and showing that support. But there are other artists that are gracious about it too. It's funny because, they pan, and it would be hard to be under or behind in front of a camera at all times. But, they pan the audience, and people's face will say a lot. You can tell a lot about how somebody feels by their reaction to seeing somebody else win.
So this isn't a relationship. I'll say it's more of a feud for her, and someone who still didn't get the fish sticks joke. Yo, Ted, I'm very happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best records of all time.
So did you hear, and I mean, I've not seen it either be confirmed or denied, but did you hear what
I heard about that at the Super Bowl, that, that can't be confirmed or denied. Video. So, But yeah, I think that feud in particular may have helped us motivate her. You know, I'm better than this clown
Yeah.
who still doesn't get the fish sticks jokes.
I think part of it for me, and we all think we all aspire to what we aspire to, but that was one of the moments that I gained a lot of respect for her because how she handled that in front of everybody as a very young woman.
Yeah, she was still a teenager.
Yes, I was truly impressive, and I will also say I gained some respect. Not and I never lacked respect for Beyonce, but I honestly feel like. You know, Beyonce came out, she didn't agree with that either. She didn't agree with how that was handled, what that was done, and that's not how the awards works.
Yeah.
And so I also gained respect for her out of the results of that. And, you know, man, if there's something you could do that you just, was it the shot heard around the world? You, sir, will always be remembered for that.
Yeah.
Way to pick on a little girl.
Yeah.
It's not
Pick
funny,
on a little
but...
girl, and yeah, I keep quoting South Park there with the fish sticks thing. Yeah, so.
We are the generation that's how we correlate things. That's how we connect.
So you like fish sticks? Yeah. So you like to put fish sticks in your mouth? You're a gay fish. No, I get no more for that.
Oh, I didn't know we get to make South Park jokes. This is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh well, yeah. We'll see how crash you're comfortable with, but whether
I've
we
already
cut this
referenced agnostic beverages. That's also a South Park joke.
It's I will say that the now granted I was a teenager when the South Park movie came out, but South Park movie is the movie in the moment that I understood the clitoris joke. Because I'm a very visual person, and that was a very visual thing, and I was like, I get it. And yeah, so South Park, I mean, honestly, is kind of an educational show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well. Oh yeah. We've devoted a lot of time to podcasts of South Park and South Park jokes.
Yeah.
But there's always room for more.
I love it.
All right. So anyway, we're off topics.
Yeah.
So back to Taylor. So is there anything that we're missing from our Taylor discussion?
I feel like we've touched on most of it. The biggest things that I like to touch on with Taylor Swift is her being a regular human, and in a world raising women, she's kind. She shows up for other women. She is not afraid to speak her tongue, not afraid to speak her mind. She her business mind is also stellar. She's close with her family. Like, she's just really an all-around phenomenal human, and to be in the position she's in and not have lost touch with that, with the things that I also agree with are actually important, I find that very impressive. So to you, Miss Taylor Swift, I will be watching, and yes, I applaud you. And I celebrate with you. You enjoy all of the amazing things that are coming to you. You've earned every bit of it.
All right. And I will close with this, as we talked about last time. We tried to do this in a coffee shop, so nice to be able to revisit this in a much quieter environment. My 11-year-old niece, Penny, is a big Swiftie, turns out. And when she was up here last with my brother and the rest of the family, she said, Uncle Mike, if you see Taylor, as if I know Taylor personally,
Right.
you do not, could you tell her I love her?
Oh.
And I think that's a great way to end this. So.
Yeah. Well, from us and from Miss Penny, we love you, Taylor Swift.
All right. And that's a great place to
end it.
call it a night. Yeah. And we will talk to y'all next time.
I look forward to it, and thank you.
You guys doing a podcast?
The money that we're chatting.
Was that a podcast?
Yes, we're doing a podcast.
Oh wow, did I just ruin it?
No.
No, not at all.
No. Okay. He'll go through
Wait, so
That's what
We're talking about Taylor Swift right now.
and Travis.
And Travis Kelce also.
I was talking to my grandpa
can I say
about that.
something about Taylor Swift?
Can we trust you to say something about Taylor Swift? Please, share.
She is a very kind person
She really is. Now, why do you say that?
because she's dating Travis Kelce.
Right? Yeah, that is so kind of her. You are correct, but I agree with you. She is a very kind person. She seems to.
And she's very,
Is it on Spotify?
she's
It
very
is. This
smart.
is Mike. Mike, tell him what's the name of your podcast?
Nice to meet you.
It's called This Podcast is Uncalled For.
Is it on?
It is. It's on
This is the question.
Spotify.
Is it uncalled for?
That's what I was gonna say.
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
But sometimes you have to have conversations that are uncalled for.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I
we
mean?
So like, should do you guys do it together?
Well, this is our first.
This is our first time, yeah.
Oh wow, your first podcast or your first together?
Our first together.
But you've had other ones out, like other.
Oh, yeah.
Episodes?
Oh, yeah. I've been doing this podcast for 5 years.
Your voice is really familiar. Like I'm not even joking.
Wait, how many people have watched your podcast?
He's up to about 20,000 downloads right now.
Wow.
Yeah, but like, how many?
He's up to about 20,000 downloads right now. That's crazy. I know.
Dang.
It's pretty cool.
Does Spotify like pay you for like your?
Spotify isn't paying me a dime.
But do you get paid, or is it just from
Not
for your?
not for doing podcasts, at least not yet.
Yeah. You will one day. You gotta get on this. Start from the bottom. Yeah. Now we're here. And then you made it to the top.
I pray for the best of you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, you guys have a very good
Thank
day.
you.
You guys are awesome.
Have a great rest of your podcast.
Thank you. Does that happen to you?
All right, that's a first.
Oh, no.
That is a first, yeah.
You do just have kind of an inviting energy, so I didn't know if maybe that, yeah, that was fun.
This podcast is uncalled for. Taylor's version is produced, edited, and hosted by myself, Mike Chernevsky. Our co-host for this episode and hopefully many more to come is Heather Marie, who's been a delight to work with. And special credit to the kids from our first attempt at this. She liked the kids interacting with us so much that she asked that be left in the episode. So there you go. Opening music is Iron Bacon by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And our outro music, which you're hearing in the background right now, is When Will I Learn by Joe Shoemaker. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution Non-Commercial 4.0 International License. And I close by saying, Love and Travis is red. Have a good day.
If you are in the United States or Canada, you can call us at 816-832-5160. Leave your message or question for us, and if we like it, we will play it on the podcast. Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.